And you agree to basically honoring that person. Circulatory systems are different, et cetera, to be able to be aware of what everything is and in its proper place. But there still has to always be the pure master races, the four, because they hold the north, south, east, and west cardinal energy points. And multiple interracial married individuals, depending on who made those individuals, Oriental, Black, European, African, hold what we call non-cardinal energies. Because, see, everything goes back to energy. But they have very difficult problems understanding what their place is because the cardinal points, the major four races, is crazy and don't understand what their purpose is. So, I mean, you know, it's like getting into that whole nationalistic bit and, you know, talking about this race is that and a whole bunch of other things. You know, see, that is what caused me to get sick because I truly saw that in the hospitals. And that's why I left those institutions, because they are not equitable in how they actually give out life force energy. I was taught only how to treat Caucasians. And when we look at it from an economic business standpoint, it's justifiable because they built the hospital. They paid for it. So my thing is if I'm investing my money in an institution and in a hospital to take care of me, oh, yes, I am going to be the standard. My thing is I didn't like the fact that it was mismarketed, because they didn't tell me that it was our standard that we're using as the norm. Because I would have been made a decision if I wanted to know that. Because I had to go back and spend 10 years learning me. Because I realized that using this standard was very dangerous in applying that to melanin-dominant people because it's not appropriate. So my thing of it is on an economic level, et cetera, anybody that does not have what they want, they're the problem. Because it comes in understanding that abundance is a natural state of affairs, that it's your priorities, and there's enough people of every race to be able to have exactly what they need. Capitalism is a lie. There's no such thing as lack. Socialism, all that stuff is ludicrous. Because there's enough of everything here to feed folks. But everybody has to get convinced at the same time. Because this is a group entity. This building was not built by one person. There's no way one person can build the Empire State Building or the Sears Tower. That's a group effort. And when we talk about building things together, a group effort means you got to come together in a point in time for a particular duration with one consciousness. It ain't no more us and it. It's just one group of folks are doing that. And everything that is on this planet has the capacity to survive at a high quality. We're not talking about just getting by. Opulence, abundance, is available for everybody. But you got to come together to see that. So if you come in lame and limp, talking about you got a problem because of this and your hair is that and I don't like my this and that and the other, well, you can't be a part of the constructive process because you're coming with a deficit. Your frequency is too low. And this is what you have to understand. So, I mean, I don't have time for that. And this is what's happening with 2/3 of the world, is that they're coming lame. Their frequency is too low. I mean, there's no reason for the people in Somalia to be like they are, except they turn their frequency down. And if you fed those people today, they would be in the same shape next year because of their frequency. So it's about elevating folks' frequency. So if you're going to help, you have to understand at what level you're going to help. Because it ain't just about feeding somebody. It's like, are you going to help them turn up the frequency so they can maintain it themselves? See, that's why all these social programs are actually just a Band-Aid. You know, because if you're not teaching the people the keys to the universe and taking them physically out of discomfort, et cetera, it's a lie. It's not going to work, and they're going to be dependent on the institution. So, you know, my thing is that if I can see this, I know other people are seeing it. But, see, I don't know what their motive is for not sharing it. You know, and see, whatever it is, they have to deal with this. And that's why I say, you know, America in itself has some very interesting karma that it's going to have to go through. Because, you know, the information that I got came out of European libraries. And so the Europeans are going to have to explain to the universe why they withheld information. Because they knew that. They know all of this stuff. So their thing is that, you know, if they're playing games with the knowledge and the information, they're accountable. But why do I have the information? Because nothing can keep you from getting what you desire. So they don't have there's no keys on their library, and there's no database that they have that I can't pierce and get information. Because if it goes in one person's brain, it goes to the side bank. And if it goes to the side bank, I have it. So I don't have to trespass anything you have. You have no combinations, no locks that can keep me from what I want to know. And that's why we have to understand that. Is that there's nothing that happens on this planet that's not recorded in the side bank, which is the universal knowledge memory bank of this earth. Anything I want to know, I can tap into the side bank. I don't have to go on your property. You can't hide from me. The key is that we have to understand that when you ask for information, your frequency has changed permanently. And now you have to do something with what you've now added to yourself. That's why I don't ask stuff that's not in my purpose. So a lot of people think it's real cute getting a whole bunch of information, etc., but now you're held accountable because your frequency is altered. So, I don't ask for that is not within my purpose. My thing is that I just want to stay on purpose and get what I need to be able to do what I have to do, which brings a lot of benefits because that means you ultimately have universal security. See, we have to get really clear on what's happening here. Why did Malcolm X, why did Martin Luther King, why did JFK, why did all of them get killed? They didn't have to be killed. You have to understand, I'm looking from the outside, but see, the key of it is that if you don't believe that doing the right thing allows you to have universal security, then you can't have it. You cannot have it. See, it has nothing to do with what your arsenal is. It has something to do with basically your mindset. And they didn't believe that. They allowed these patterns of thought, this violence and things, to let them think that for doing the right thing, that they were going to have to be punished. And they all decreed that, if you read their writings. And so they got what they believed. That's why they're not here. They decreed that upon themselves. But see, it has a really heavy ramification because you all know what the right thing should be. But because you are also steeped in that frequency of thought, you don't do it. But you still have to deal with the consequences. So it's really interesting here because, yes, there is choice, and no, there isn't. Yeah, check that out. Yes, there is, and no, there isn't. Because if you know better, you have to do better. And if you don't do better, you will deal with the consequences of that. So this is very, very important to understand what's happening on an energetic basis. We don't have time for that. Everybody's got to get in their place. But my thing is that, thank goodness for occasions, because, this is information that they've collected and we're expanding on. I'm saying thank goodness for occasions and whoever else, because this is information that we've collected and we've expanded on. What we have pulled together here today has come from all races and is being, based on our purpose, imbued with life force because we are the imbuers of the life force energy. We're giving it soul. Okay, do you understand what I'm saying? Right. So, so this is where we are. So if people still want to be stuck in nationalism and whatever else, then they can do that. But, it's time out for that. It's about truth. Okay. You want to go on?
Okay. Thank you. That was beautiful. That was beautiful. As Sister Dr. Jewel was talking about purpose, if you are about your purpose, and if you understand that there is a universal purpose to all of this, and as Dr. Jewel so eloquently stated, there's a purpose for everything. Everything does have a purpose. And one of the questions that we could ask in terms of understanding the past, our journey, and our sojourn here is ask the inner God, what was the purpose of going through that experience? That's not an invalid question. And for many of our people, that's a place where many of our people are stuck. Many of our people are angry. All right, which is an energy. All right? So ask God. The answer I got was, they're fire for us. Purification. Okay? And it's those ancient souls that have the tougher roles to play. Everything has a purpose. And I would say to my sister, as our beloved doctor so beautifully said, and I think you received it in the spirit that she gave it, that we have to be about going on. And the purpose of life is constantly seeking to know itself, to expand itself.